Today, we're diving into one of the absolute most fascinating case studies in modern cinematic history. We're going to take a close look at how one monumental creative risk, taken against pretty much all conventional wisdom, completely flipped the trajectory of Hollywood and birthed a massive global phenomenon. It's a wildly entertaining story, and honestly, it teaches us so much about the sheer power of sticking to your own creative vision.
So, it really begs the question, how on earth did one bizarre acting choice change Hollywood forever? It's a fantastic way to frame our journey today, right? Because, as you probably know, in the movie business, playing it safe is usually the golden rule. Studios invest hundreds of millions of dollars and they want guarantees. But every so often, the expectations of a massive studio collide head-on with the wild, unfiltered reality of an actor's unique vision. And when that happens, the results can literally alter pop culture itself.
Picture this. The year is 2003. Let that sink in for just a second. This was such a pivotal year. It was the exact moment that completely shifted the trajectory of a highly respected indie actor's career. Before 2003, everything about Johnny Depp was defined in a very specific way by both critics and audiences. But after this year, absolutely nothing would ever be the same for him or for the film industry, for that matter.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1, the unlikely pirate choice.
To really appreciate what went down in 2003, we have to understand the landscape of Hollywood casting before a certain pirate ever existed on screen. Leading up to this, Johnny Depp's reputation was entirely built on unusual characters and taking massive creative risks. He was already highly respected as one of Hollywood's most talented actors, working with deeply visionary directors and building this incredible eclectic resume. But here's the catch. He was an indie darling. He actively steered clear of blockbuster fame. He practically ran away from massive, highly commercial mainstream projects.
So the crucial thing to understand here is the absolute shockwaves that went through the industry when this news hit. Disney announces a movie called Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. And the wildest part of the whole shebang, it was based on a theme park attraction. Seriously, think about that for a second. At the time, almost nobody in Hollywood believed adapting a ride into a movie would be successful. It just sounded bizarre. So for a respected indie guy like Depp to be cast as the lead character, it was incredibly surprising to literally everyone.
Moving on to Section 2, designing a rock star pirate. This is where the story gets really fun.
So we start to see this massive creative clash. When a studio greenlights a pirate movie, they're picturing a very traditional hero, right? Someone fearless, brave, reliable. Your standard swashbuckling hero. But Johnny Depp, he was imagining Jack Sparrow. Eccentric, unpredictable, witty. From day one, Depp imagined the character entirely differently from everyone else in the room. He wasn't building a standard action hero. He was building a beautiful anomaly. So where did this anomaly even come from? Well, Depp actually borrowed inspiration directly from rock musicians. He brought in this carefree attitude, a completely unique swagger, and of course, that iconic slurred speech. He was constantly and perfectly balancing on that razor-thin wire between pure genius and absolute madness. Audiences had literally never seen a pirate captain with this kind of rock and roll edge before.
But as you can probably guess, the people actually financing the movie weren't quite seeing the genius just yet. Studio executives were looking at the dailies and asking, why does he speak, walk, and behave so differently? During production, they were confused. Actually, scratch that, they were terrified. For a heart-stopping moment behind the scenes, there were very real fears that this bizarre character might completely ruin the film. They honestly thought it just wouldn't work at all.
But then, the film actually hit theaters. Section 3, a billion-dollar surprise.
Because here's the magic of it. The very same eccentricities that terrified the studio executives turned out to be exactly what the global audience instantly fell in love with. It wasn't traditional pirate strength or bravery that won people over. It was that unforgettable walk, the slurred speech, the clever tricks, the strange charm, and that wildly unpredictable humor. Jack Sparrow wasn't the strongest pirate, and he certainly wasn't the bravest, but he forged this massive connection with viewers because he was delightfully flawed, undeniably magnetic, and just completely unforgettable.
And the result of that magnetic connection? Hundreds of millions of dollars. To put that into perspective, that represents the initial worldwide box office earnings. The success of that very first film completely blindsided Hollywood. I mean, no one saw it coming. In an instant, it launched what would become one of Disney's most successful film franchises in history.
And it didn't stop at the box office. This character quickly transcended the screen and became a pure cultural explosion. Kids everywhere were suddenly dressing up in the Halloween costumes. Fans were memorizing his lines word for word. His image took over posters, toys, video games, and global magazine covers. He evolved from a mere movie character into a massive, undeniable global cultural icon.
And honestly, the numbers just kept climbing. Billions, with a B. As sequels inevitably followed, each pulling in enormous audiences, Depp's popularity completely skyrocketed. His films began generating billions at the global box office, making him one of the highest-paid actors on Earth. Wherever he traveled, thousands of fans would gather just to catch a glimpse of him. Which brings us perfectly to our final chapter, Section 4, The Jack Sparrow Legacy.
So how exactly does an actor use this unprecedented, world-changing level of fame? Do they play it safe and just repeat the blockbuster formula forever? Well, not Johnny Depp. Post-Sparrow, he used his massive leverage to dive right back into the weird and the wonderful. He played mysterious barbers, mad hatters, gangsters, writers, and dreamers. Despite the huge fame, he maintained his fierce willingness to transform and rarely repeated a performance twice. That creative courage to keep challenging himself really remained one of the defining qualities of his career.
So, the guy who originally just dreamed of becoming a musician ultimately transformed into cinema's biggest star. By the end of the 2000s, his name alone could fill theaters worldwide. And Captain Jack Sparrow? He was cemented not just as the beating heart of the entire Pirates franchise, but as Johnny Depp's greatest triumph. A brilliant, wildly risky character that audiences are forever going to associate with his name.
And that brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. Jack Sparrow wasn't the bravest, and he definitely wasn't the most reliable, but man, he was unforgettable. So, in your own work, you gotta ask yourself, are you playing it safe, or are you striving to be unforgettable? It's a pretty powerful lesson in creative risk-taking, isn't it? Sometimes, leaning into what makes your ideas totally unique and a little eccentric, even if it scares the executives at first, is exactly what the world is waiting for. Thank you so much for learning with me today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.